Hello. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here instead of watching football, but I see a Barca t-shirt over there. Well, today we have Delphine Volkaert from Base Design, and the reason to invite her, it's on the one hand, because I think in my opinion that it's difficult to find people or studios doing interesting digital work or interesting websites beyond the template looking thing and with stronger ideas and more deeply rooted. And also because in my opinion, Base Design, it's one of these, for being one of the studios who has been there for many years, like probably nearly 30 already, is the ones that have done very good transformation into the digital world and keeping it as something intrinsical of the development of the projects and not something that it's like outsourced or external. So really working from the, let's say, from the inside and from a creative point of view, but also using all the potential of technology. So I guess that's, we will know more about that during the presentation of Delphine. So just welcome her, please. And after the lecture, we will have time for questions for Delphine. Thank you, Delphine, for being here.
I need to get it closer. Good, like this? Okay. No? I need to talk here? Oh my God. Wow, I have a double task force here. Is it better? Okay. How do I start? Nice to meet you. Encantada. I'm very happy to be here. You'll know a little bit later even why more here than in any other place. Thank you, Marc, for inviting me. Yes, and thank you all for coming. Is there football tonight? I'm happy you're not looking for football either. Me hubiera gustado hacer esta presentación en español, pero la verdad es que tendría que practicar un poco más, así que voy a seguir en inglés esta vez, pero quizá la próxima vez, si lleno de nuevo, lo puedo hacer en español. It's actually the first time I share my work in front of so many people. I'm used to do it in front of clients, but not in front of students, so bear with me. It was a really good exercise for me to do, actually, because it kind of obliged me to take a step back and think about what I'm doing every day, the way I think and the way I work. So I really advise you to say yes if someone asks you one time to prepare a talk. I work for a studio that is called Base Design. I don't know if you know about it. It existed for some time in Barcelona as well. And it was created around 30 years ago. We are an international network of creative studios, and we have 6 studios in total all across the globe. It started in Brussels and New York, and then Geneva, Melbourne, recently Saigon in Vietnam. And we have a digital team that is spread all across the globe in different countries. We are specializing in branding and communication, and I'll show you a small overview of So what you've just seen is actually the work of around 90 people worldwide, so it's really not only me are many other people out there. And that's a little bit what we look like. It's already a bit of an outdated picture. It was taken during the summit in Brussels 2 years ago. So we're not all there, but the summit is a moment where we really try to gather all the studios into one place. It's usually really great parties. And I'm there in the middle, really choosing the perfect moment to close my eyes. That's in Brussels, we're around 20 people, 20, 22, depending on the moment, but around that number. And this is a little bit what it looks like in the studio. There on baby one more time. So you can see lots of food, work, gatherings, work, mostly food. And I realized during preparing this presentation that it has been my day-to-day for almost 10 years. No, not almost, already 10 years. So happy birthday to me. So what brought me to this day? I'll tell you a little bit about me before diving in the subject. I studied in an old abbey. This was my school in Brussels. It's called La Cambre. The school was founded by Henri van de Velde. I don't know if you know him, but he inspired the school around the concept of the Bauhaus, meaning that there is a true dialogue between art, craft, and design. And inside the school, you had a lot of different disciplines. It's very known for fashion, but we have also typography, sculpture, painting. I studied visual communication there, but there were moments during the year where you could also have exchange during with the other programs. And I spent 5 years of my life there, so it could be worse. Barcelona holds a very special place in my heart because during my 4th year of studies, I did an Erasmus in ENA in Barcelona, which is also a very nice environment. I picked my schools pretty well. To be honest, I was first interested in coming at Elisava, but it was not possible. So. ENA really showed me a more professional side of things. In my school in Brussels, it was more about craft. We did a lot of things by hand. And at ENA, I really discovered really almost kind of a finished product when working on things. And I really love the fact that most teachers were also running studios next to teaching, which was not really the case where I studied. It also got me interested in branding. I didn't really know what it was until then. And I also got to discover the best views of Barcelona and all the Erasmus must do, but won't talk about that tonight. I actually loved the city so much that I came back for an internship the summer after that for 2 months at a studio that was called Risk Company. I had a great time. They had a beautiful terrace in Poblenou. And I had a view on that guy taking a sand bath every lunchtime next to his car. What a weird thing to do. But I think it kind of feels Barcelona, right? And what else? I was looking through old pictures on my phone, and I found this, which was taken 11 years ago. It's a screenshot of Marc and the talk I attended in this very after my Erasmus, I went back to Brussels to finish my studies. I had 1 year left, and at the same time, I started an internship at Base Design in Brussels. It already involved a lot of food, and then I graduated, and then panic, what do I do, right? You've done all those things, and your life was all planned, and then you're like, what do? I look for a job, I don't know. So I started looking for a job in Belgium, and in the meantime, I thought instead of doing nothing, let's try to learn a bit more, and I started a class in digital design. It was really a small program, but still it was nice, and I learned the basis of UX, UI, and that's one of the fictional wireframe I did for the e-commerce of Pull&Bear, which was really random, but I actually decided to learn about digital because in my school in La Cambre, I'm talking 10 years ago, there were not digital courses. I mean, we couldn't really learn anything about it. We would kind of create stuff by yourself, but it wasn't really good. And I thought it could actually help me find a job. Actually, I never finished that course because Jacques called me. Jacques is that guy. I met him when I was doing my internship at Base Design, and he was creating kind of a digital task force for Base, really to kind of bring the level of the studios in digital a little bit higher. They had more and more requests to do digital work, but they had no one to do it. So he asked if I wanted to join because he saw on Twitter I was learning about digital, so always update your he asked if I wanted to join, and I said yes. It was a separate company at the time. We had small offices next to the brand Base Design team, but we handled most of the digital projects coming from Base. It was a full new team of all new people coming from everywhere in Belgium, designers, developers, and I was actually the only girl at the beginning. It was really kind of a boy crew. But the team quickly got bigger and other women joined, which was really cool. We worked on very nice projects. We built a personal chatbot on the website of Fondation Cartier. It sounds a little bit lame now, but it was really innovative at the time. And we could dive also into the archive of Yves Saint Laurent, many nice names and clients. And 10 years later, I'm still there. This is us last weekend during an off-site day in the countryside of Belgium, the Brussels team. And now digital is actually completely integrated. There are no two offices anymore. What we call Base Digital today is actually the development team that works across the different studios. So what do we do exactly at Base? We do branding, and we like to do the full thing. Ideally, we start with a strategy, and the strategy is really about defining the story and the narrative that is unique to the brand. So the reason the brand exists, what makes it different, how people feel when they interact with the brand, what is its personality and attitude. And that step is very, very important because it will lead all the decisions we're going to make after. So it's important to have really good strategy. Then it leads to design. This is what you know about the most, I guess, being here. And then design is to visualize a strategy into ideas, into visual systems and tools to really bring the story to life with clarity and to make it stand apart. So we do that through logo, colors, typography, motion, physicality, tone of voice is very important for some brands. There are many assets we can play with. And the last touch point would be digital. We love to build a digital experience that really helps the audience truly inhabit the world of the brand and not only show their story, but really understand it from inside. And me, where I work, it would be there. That's really where I position myself. I try to define what I do, and I would call myself a brand digital designer because I never feel 100% a brand designer, even though at Base I also sometimes work only on brand identity projects. And I don't feel I'm purely a digital designer because I'm not a freak of systems, and I could never be a product designer, for instance. I'm really not organized enough, I guess. So I see myself really at the intersection of the two. And this is actually the question that interests me the most. How can a brand behave in the digital world? And how can we really enhance the experience we have of a brand on the web? So it's not only about designing pages, how a brand can be put on the internet and that's what it looks like, but to me it's really designing its behavior. How should it act over time? How do we feel when we interact with that website, and how it can also enrich the identity and push it further. Sometimes you'll see through examples, I think designing for the web can also really push the brand further, make it more interesting, and even create different layers of perceptions. Now, Marc said it a little bit in his introduction. What we talk about when we talk about web design today, this is usually what we see, what we think of. Don't get me wrong, I think this can be good. It's clean, it's minimal, it's well designed, it looks good, and it's user-friendly, easy to use, to navigate. It uses patterns that we already know and that we're comfortable with. And sometimes at Base, we also design websites like this when the brief requires full functionality, for example, or when we feel that it's enough. But even if those websites, they answer the primary purpose of communicating content on the web, to me, they remain very silent. Say that they feel pretty limited, predictable, standardized, passive, timeless, static, and isolated. So to me, those adjectives defined pretty static objects and not experiences. It would mean that if we do that, we treat the web like a static container for content. But it was never meant to be static. It's dynamic by nature. And timeless could be a very good adjective to a beautiful object, but to a website, it feels a little bit weird. I also think that when everything becomes timeless, it also means nothing feels alive. And if it doesn't feel alive, it's also very easy to forget because we can't relate to it. There's no connection. Right? So I feel my role as a brand digital designer or digital designer is more to give brands digital life and not digital layout. My role is not to create digital brochure, but to really work with the medium I'm creating with. Of course, we define how the brand looks on the web, but more importantly, how it behaves and how it makes you feel, because this is what you remember. So how can we make it more memorable, and how can we turn those objects into experiences? I try to think of the way I approach a new project and to define the different angles like I can play around with, always defined by the brand strategy. And I came up with a few fundamentals of the web that help me kind of categorize the areas of play. So I'll talk to you a little bit about those fundamentals. There are many more depending on your area of expertise or what you like to work on. So the first one would be that the web is not limited. It's an infinite space. It's not two-dimensional, but it extends beyond the frame, right? It can stretch in every direction, and it's a network without edge. We could say that it has no final connection, final form, but only connections in the making. On those microsites we designed for the Prince estate, the navigation really allows you to explore the content in a dynamic way. So it can be as an infinite canvas on the very direct idea of infinite, or it can also be a 3D experimental interface so that you discover all the Infinite also means that we can make the content live outside of the browser, or at least make you feel like you're outside of the browser. And here, by capturing certain visuals, it allows to display more content. But infinite also means that the web is actually built on hyperlinks, and it means that you can have an infinite navigation between pages and IDs. It's really an interconnected network of endless relationships. This idea was at the core of our project in New York for the Studio Museum in Harlem. So the main idea of the website was that just like the constant noise you hear in the streets of Harlem, the website suggests always other content to remembers in the margins. So you always have something else to click, and every link opens a new space and a new discoveries. The second fundamental I like to remind myself is that the web is not predictable, it's adaptative. So it's not like print. The web happens in time, and it's aware of its own context. It means it adapts, it updates, refreshes according to its environment. And every second it can shift and take a new shape. So it can adapt to its very direct environment, like what type of device do you use and what is its orientation. That is very direct knowledge. But it can also work in real time and adapt to external systems or data streams like the weather, like a location or the time of the day. This was a prototype we had done for a website for a local energy provider that we branded. It was called Energy. And we imagined a symbol for them in the shape of a sun. We thought that it could be nice that, as you connect to the website, depending on the time of the day, the color scheme would change and the logo would always adapt. So it's a simple thing, but it just brings a little bit of surprise and delight playing with that behavior. If the website was running on solar panel, for example, we could also update the logo depending on the available battery that is left, things like that. So more spike when there is more battery, less spikes when there is less. And I actually saw a website recently by a guy called David Lieberman. He changed the full layout and content of the website depending on that idea of solar panel. And I thought it was pretty memorable. The web is not standardized, it's personalized. Since it's aware of its context, it also means it's aware of you as a person. And it means your experience can be personalized according to you, your data, your browsing history, your behavior. It plays on that ID. So you have a generated background that can change depending on how you're feeling today and what your mood is. For a lighting company lately, we built an identity with a type that is reactive to light. But it also means that on the web, it can adapt to your own lighting environment. So we play around that. The web can respond to your data, your environment, or even to your body movement. And I think that with AI and machine learning, the experience we have of the web will be more and more personalized. I think it's great as long as it makes us keep discovering new things. It doesn't put us in a tunnel of always seeing the same. The web is not passive, it's reactive. We've seen it already in the previous examples. It can listen and adapt, but also it can also react very quickly. And I think that makes it beautiful, is that it's always in motion. It can mouse over, it can react to your holding click. That was a proposal we had made for a fine jewelry brand. We had that idea to create interactive 3D elements that kind of go from the natural stone of the jewelry to the full finished jewelry by, in the meantime, putting all those worlds together. But they didn't take it. And it can also react to Antoine blowing hair into his phone. To Lou.
Down.
Talking to a logo for an elevator company.
Up. Down. Up. Up.
Getting mad.
Down.
And it can also react to me signaling with my thumb, a bit like Julius Caesar, if I like an artwork or not. The web is not timeless, it's ephemeral. That's a really hard word to say for a French speaker. It's in content flux and pages vanish, data decays, and links break all the time. It's an ecosystem of appearing and disappearing. It's a living thing, which means that it's not permanent, and most of the time we try to counter that, but I think it's quite a beautiful quality, and we should embrace this as a sign of life. One of our long-term partners is Maison d'Andois. I don't know if you know them. They make biscuits in Brussels. To me, the best one. As a few key moments of the year, we collaborate with them on small campaigns. This one was for St. Valentine's Day. We wanted to try something new, so we did an installation in 3 of their shops in Brussels. The idea was quite simple. You had a QR code. As you passed by the shop, you could scan the QR code and add a message for someone you loved. And the message was shown directly on the screen and on their website, and you could also send a message to the person you were sending it to. It was only showed for a limited amount of time, so if they missed it, that was too late. It's also a way to add joy and surprise and spread love, and we need it in the moment. We also experimented about the idea of a live fashion show that could be seen from anywhere through AR, but only at a specific moment. And this is a website that the team in New York did recently that I found very beautiful. It's for the Brazilian artist Wendy Andrade. It was inspired by water, fluidity, and movement. And the idea is that on the homepage, there are always combination of words and images that are ephemeral and that change all the time, each time different. As you scroll down, some content appears, then disappears. And what it does is that it really gives focus at the end to what remains. To me, playing with the ephemeral aspect of the web can really increase its value because it creates attention and memory, just like when you attend a conversation or a talk like tonight. You had to be there to experience it, and so it creates a moment on its own. The web is not static, it's generative. What you see is not printed once, but it's generative. It's generated each time, meaning that it's made by a computer and alive in code, and not print. We could say that it's never shown, but kind of always performed. And many creative coders play with generative art on the web, and there are so many talented ones. For designers, it's actually a big mental shift, because what you do when you work with generative art is that you design the conditions, but never the final output. And this is also a way to make things alive, to allow for mistake and something that you cannot predict. Almost 3 years ago, we worked on a campaign for La Monnaie. La Monnaie is the opera house in Brussels. It's also a long-time client of us. And the theme of that season was fate. It was really the beginning of AI, and we thought, how could we interpret fate in design? So we actually asked the playwriter to summarize each play into one sentence, even kind of spoiling the end of the play. We know how it ends anyway. And we used those lines to prompt AI. And this became the full campaign. AI evolved a lot since then, and the goal was really not to come up with beautiful images, but more to embrace the fact that it was weird and clumsy, and also for us a way to experiment. We loved the idea that the cultural institution would play around with technology, and for us it was also a way to open the debate back then. And the last one, I would say that the web is not isolated but collective. It's made by many hands, and every user is not only a consumer, but also it's shaping the experience, editing and connecting. And when users start to influence each other, even like on an indirect way, it means that the web becomes a shared space. I love the idea that the experience for me can slightly shift because you did something, and so you turn around the world. There again, there are many ways to experience the collective aspect of the web. For prints, we created Prints to Me, and it was actually a big wall. Each fan could kind of create their own little board. So it means that each time you were coming on the website, it was different because someone else has created a board, and it brought back to that kind of collective wall. So as I said, you're never alone on the web. There are many people, but mostly we don't see them. So what happens when you see the cursor of all the other people that are online at the same time as you were? And we push that ID further for this website called New Family. It was a project we worked on for MUDAM, which is the main contemporary art in Luxembourg. In 2020, they asked us to come up with an idea for a digital exhibition. But with the collective aspect of the web, when you arrived on the website, you had to allow for your camera, otherwise you couldn't enter. You could add a filter on your face if you wanted some privacy. And then you could browse the different artworks online and leave an audio and video comment on the artwork to give your feedback. The other. So those are like the one fundamentals that I like to remind myself. Again, there are probably many more, and many new will arrive. So it means more things to play around with, which is pretty exciting. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm showing you a lot of little experiments there, but at base, the website that we do needs to remain objects of communication. They need to work, they need to be clear, they need to be usable and accessible, they need to be tools that communicate. We need to answer many needs. We have a clear brief from the start, generally. We need to answer the audience needs, the brand's needs, the business needs. So the website have to speak clearly, carry identity, and convey strategy. So basically, they need to carry function. I also believe that the website we design should find a way to carry feeling. Remember, they exist in time, they react, they learn, they forget, just like us, basically. So to me, every project is an attempt to make the brand feel and behave like itself in the digital space. That is the sweet spot between function and feeling. To me, there is a space for design that breathes, and that's exactly where I try to work. To me, that's where we can find the unexpected, when function becomes feeling, and when a user pauses just for a second to wonder what is going on, or just to capture the moment. I think that even on more corporate websites, because at base sometimes we have big corporate websites, it's not always beautiful contemporary art project. We have a bit of everything. There's always a way to find sometimes little details that make it special, that make it feel like itself. And sometimes you can also find grand gestures and big ideas, and the client is following those. So what should visitors feel, and what do we want them to remember? I'll show you a few projects that are aiming to be in that space between function and feeling. You see they're all pretty different because each time we just try to transmit what the brand and the client is about, and so they cannot, of course, be the same and feel the same. So what if a website could take you backstage? This is a project we did for Villa Eugénie. Villa Eugénie is a creative event, an experience design company based in Brussels. They work with brands, designers, cultural institutions to create very high-impact visual experiences, from fashion show to immersive events. It's quite beautiful what they do. And Etienne Rousseau is their founder. He's quite a character. He's really known in the world of fashion, and he's really been behind the most transformative and epic fashion shows in recent history. He used to be a model, and he used to throw parties in a club. That's where we started organizing fashion show, I think, with his friends. And he did the first Dries Van Noten show in Paris, and started this company 5 years after that. We did their first website in 2009. I wasn't at base yet. So it's been a long time collaboration, and we also worked on a website for them in 2016. And I think it already looked pretty good, but maybe it lacked a little bit of the feeling side. So a few years ago, we reworked again with them. I told you websites have a short lifetime, so we can do it over and over again, and that's also the fun of it. We reworked with them, and we did the full thing this time. We really reworked the strategy. We worked on a manifesto for them to express their vision and brand identity. The main goal was to keep it simple, but have more impact and have kind of a bolder voice. So we have a simple typography used in all caps, a monogram, very direct system. And then we were going to start to work on the website. We knew that our objectives were double, on the functional side and on more of the feeling side, right? So on the functional side, we had to present Villa Eugénie's work and expertise. It needed to be clear and functional, and it's already kind of what the previous website did. It was maybe a little bit too clear and functional. This time, we also wanted to work more on the feeling side of things. So what they do is that they really create moments of spectacle. They create moments that you need to live once when you're there. So that's kind of hard to translate moments after. So that was our role, I think, to recreate the feeling of a show online. How can we do that? How can we create a distinctive online presence that brings the feeling of being at a show when it's already passed and you didn't get to be there? So we started to think, what is kind of the universal feeling you get at a show? Of course, each of their projects are very different, so we cannot transmit one or the other, but what is the main feeling that you keep in your mind? I would say it's mostly about light, sound, movement, kind of the smoke that you get of the halogen light. So our main idea was that we didn't want to show the show, but really make you feel the show. Imagine the light turns off and the music comes in the room. The light flicker in perfect beat with the sound, and then the model starts walking in front of you. And it feels like almost hypnotic, and you're really pulled in their world. To us, that really felt like the tone we wanted to have. But then, how do you design that? Our first intuition was to work with impact. It's really what they're about, creating impact. Full screen, grid, visual first, something very direct like the identity. And all the production had to be put at the same level of hierarchy. We couldn't put one bigger than the other. And it needed to show the diversity of projects they work on. So we worked around this full grid, pretty dark background, but it felt a little bit too much. You enter there and you see things from everywhere, like on the TV. And we realized that trying to bring impact to everything at the same time was at the end putting focus to none. But still, all the projects had to be shown equally and with showing the diversity. So what we did is that instead of showing everything directly, we built sequences and we created different moments. Simply by adding a reel as you enter the website, that was kind of creating the impact. Big, beautiful imagery, and it allowed visitors to directly know what they're doing and what their projects are about. After seeing that reel, we came back to the idea of the grid, but just adding slightly more white space. What it does is that it creates a little scene for each of the production. It's pretty common in a way, the grid ID, but it's one way to put everything equally. And also, their images are so beautiful that it didn't need much. We tried to keep the UI pretty minimal, and instead to work more on interaction. For interaction, we thought of the idea of the spotlight. What it does, the spotlight, is that it can give the full light to one person, one focus, or it can also give light to the full room. And that's a little bit what we tried to do, to make one project exist and be the star for a moment, but at the same time be part of other ones. So we worked on interaction. And simply with that, it allows you to have a full view on all their projects or to kind of focus and dive into one. As you open one project, you see the title flickers as you open the page. Again, kind of an echo to the light flickering. And if you want, you can just do nothing and watch the show, because the page automatically scrolls a little bit like the models coming across on the runway. The sun goes on, and all the elements, the UI elements, go away to let you completely focus on what you're seeing. We actually really loved that it felt so immersive. But then we got to work with their real content. And they had a lot of vertical images that could not be cropped and that they didn't want to pair with another one next to it. And so we arrived to those layouts where we had a lot of white space, and we were a bit disappointed that it felt of the immersive effect that we were looking for. So what we did is that we worked on creating generated background that were moving slowly and that were directly generated from the image themselves to kind of extend the background of what you were seeing. So it looked a little bit like that. So it was a solution we needed to come up with, but at the end, I think it adds subtle motion that feels nice and kind of echoes again that idea of lighting smoke. Because the more you interact with them, the more the generated effect goes further. So we had all that, but Villa Eugénie isn't just about the final show and the final moment. It's also about everything that comes before, the preparation, the references, and all the details they put together to have the final moment at the end. So we thought we really needed to show that, the kind of the behind the scene, right, the backstage. So for that, we came up with a very simple idea. We had a sticky button on the page that we're saying backstage. And at any moment, you can click it, and the screen literally flips to take you backstage. And there, they had that kind of organic grid where they could add references from the show, images of the rehearsal, and all the behind the scene and the real work that comes before the moment. We loved the fact that the gesture was so simple, and it really made the website more unique. And they really liked it too. but actually, if you look at their website today, they never used it. I think it was probably too much work for them to work on all that behind-the-scene content. But still it's there. Maybe one day they will use it. They already implemented more and more behind the scene on their social media. So let's see what happens. This is a bit of an overview of the project coming together. What I really love about this project is that it really shows as well how much working on digital in the continuity of all the rest can really push the brand identity further, because most of the codes that we developed for the website went back to the brand after, meaning that the flip meant behind the scene, the blur really created the immersive feeling, the smoke, and the flickering really became a strong identity element marking the beginning of an experience. And so while the identity was pretty static at the beginning, working on the website brought back those codes that now they use also on social media. Even the blur went back to print applications. And this is the full team that worked on that project. It's important for me to say, because sometimes when you work from bigger studios, you don't realize the amount of people that worked on those projects. All those names are from creative director, digital director, designers, motion designers, brand designers, technical strategists, project developers, you name them all. The second project is very different, not in fashion. What if a website let the humans do the talking? This is a project we worked on for an architecture practice called Owls. I'm actually saying architecture, but they're a little bit more than that. They also do design, urban planning. And they're based in the UK. They have a studio in Birmingham and one in London. And they create buildings and places with a strong focus on sustainability, craftsmanship, and positive social impact. They work on a wide range of projects, from cultural institutions to residentials or even very big master plans. We could resume our wealth by saying there are people building buildings for people. We met them in their Birmingham office, where they started also 30 years ago. And the city of Birmingham is quite important for them, for their company and their story, because the city really had a great influence on the way they work and on their project. So they took us on a little tour there of the city, because a lot of the things of the city are things that they worked on. And that was really interesting, because you could see the tangible impact they had on the city, on the way it's evolving. Birmingham is really kind of a constant work in progress, and that also reflects into their own work. A deep dive into our clients is always the best way to start off the project, actually. So we started with a strategy workshop with the partners. We visited their model shop, that is quite beautiful. And this was the welcoming desk. As you see there, it was called Glenn Owell's Architect. For them, it was also a big shifting moment, because they had been around for a long time, and the founder, Glenn, really wanted to reflect the wider group of people. So we questioned the name, it becomes Owells. It also allows them to be a little bit more than about architecture, because they don't have architects in the name anymore. So after a few back and forth, we worked on strategy. I won't read it all to you, but so you know this is what it looks like at the end. But there are a few words that stayed with me through the full process. Like, we focus on people, meaningful change, ingenious ideas over showy aesthetic, energetic exchange of ideas. We want to be approachable, and we want to create places that are full of life. So when I work on the project, there are words like that that stay in my head all the time, and the goal is to find a way to visualize them. So again, objectives were double. We need to present their expertise and vision through project. They had a lot of different audiences, and one of the primary one was the city leaders, and those really need to see the vision how else and how they can help them to create a better quality of life for the community. And they also want to talk to value-driven clients that need to see what other project they work on. So pretty quick, direct access to project and information. But also, we wanted to make visitors of the website feel the energetic exchange of ideas between client, team, and places. And they also had, as an audience, the need to attract new collaborators, young architect and designer that want to see really Wells as a place where they could grow and learn really a people-first culture. So we started designing. This is kind of a singular project because we approach identity and website at the same time. We sometimes do that when we know that the website will really be their main touch point. So we do it all at the same time. To be honest, I don't think it's the best process because you have to handle so many subjects at the same time that it can get really tricky, but sometimes it works. So the main idea was, how can we translate that energetic exchange of ID? They're more than architects, they're problem solvers. One thing we knew is that instead of showing only the final project, as a lot of architecture practice do, we wanted to show the mess, the craft, from the 3D to the sketch to the project in the making, the models, etc. And we were also thinking, how can we build a narrative across their project to give more info about the ideas than the final outcome. In the same time, we were testing out type for the identity. Maybe we go for a serif. That was a little bit inspired by the old road sign from Birmingham. I'm not sure, you'll see we didn't really go there at the end. But one thing became very clear is that to create the energy, we needed to build contrast. And so we built a lot of contrast to our direction and to images. What we told them is that we would have on one side curated project photography, so really beautiful art-directed images, show ambition, that show the scale and their craft. And on the other side, really DIY, on-the-go, TikTok-style videos and images that really document the processes, the studio, and that show the culture and also makes them approachable. So it looked a little bit like that. On both sides, we needed to show places, process, and people, but in two different ways that would work in contrast. We started making collage and see how those two art directions could come together, from the technical plan to the final person actually using the building. Playing around with shapes, doing it with videos. So it was really this idea of having at the same time beautiful imagery answering the needs of city leaders, let's say, and at the same time more real of the day-to-day work. So how could we continue that idea of collage on the web? We looked back at our first experiment or design, and they felt a little bit too messy. That could work for kind of a new experimental architect practice, but Wells, they'd been around for 30 years, and they needed to be a little bit more maybe serious or established. So we went back to it, and remember, there are people building buildings for people. And that's also something we needed to show and make people feel. So I kept searching, and actually I watched a lot of videos of Glenn and his partners talking about projects. Got interested in architecture.
I hope some really good architects depart from doing buildings and spend their careers on ideas in the same way that Buckminster Fuller did, maybe. But it takes not average architects, but maybe one or two really amazing, gifted architects to stop being worried about doing amazing buildings and do amazing systems.
And when you look at all those videos, I don't know about you, but it was pretty inspiring to me. They talk about their project, you can see the passion in their eyes, they move their, you have their ancestor, you have the accent from Birmingham, and basically there are people explaining what they did, a little bit like I'm telling you tonight. So I really like those, and I thought that if I did, maybe other people would relate to it. So who better to tell the story of a project than the people that worked on it, right? So solution was actually on the project page to put forward those people and the faces behind ovals. So for each project, we would have one person in a small video talking you through the story directly. We loved how it was actually making the collage happen in a less literal way. So on one side, you would have the first layer with more of a polished case study, and on the other side, more of the TikTok process-like video. We really liked the idea because it really felt like them. In the meantime, we advanced on the identity, and after many discussions with the client, we kept it pretty minimal. They were already changing name, and they were not really ready to go much further. But still, it fitted them because it also fits their very humble personality, I think. We also gave them a main color, which is sometimes not so much the case in architecture studio, the orange brick of Birmingham. And when you put together the word mark, the orange, the idea of the collage, we get this result that is at the same time pretty professional, but I think also fresh and not too corporate. And with that, we went back to the website and we pushed further the idea of the small videos. We kept the two layers in contrast. So one layer was the very clean professional case study, and the second layer were those videos, TikTok style, taking you through the process. But what we changed is that instead of having one person taking you through the job, we multiplied the point of view, and we added many videos of many persons, from the intern to the architect to the client.
We also had first year students and final year students from our BA course with us, and it's really part of the course that we encourage collaboration and dialogue amongst our students.
So a little bit of an insight into the role of Giselle that we
We also added an extra feature, is that during a video, we also let them add visuals to their stories. It's a way to add more context or visualize something that they're explaining. I see that this is not playing. So you see they're talking, and at any moment they can also display images. Titles. But the idea is that it doesn't add a workload on their side. They don't have to create those videos to their CMS, to the content manager of the website. They can just add the images and the timing in which they want them to appear. So it also becomes a way for them to tell their stories. To us, that really felt like it was adding to the feeling side of things, because you see them, sometimes they talk in front of the places they're created, so you see that those places are inhabited, that there are people actually using them and being there at the moment. And it was also a good way to attract new talents, which was one of our main audience, because if you see actually the people working there talking on the project, it might make you also want to go there, and you can also project yourself. So when you're on the big video viewer and one video is over, it automatically goes to the next one, which we liked because it means that it creates an alternative way of discovering the project. If you want, you can just stay in the video mode and just go from one video to another, and you will discover the project. It's actually a very simple idea, but to me, it also differentiates them a lot from the other architect practice. Because remember, most of the architect websites look like this. And they're generally pretty beautiful, but they're completely disconnected from the human side. That really didn't feel like them. They actually loved the idea, and they quickly put it in motion. It was actually the first time I realized that our work can also have a good aspect into gathering the team, the internal team, because it's actually what they did here. When they started making videos, more and more staff wanted to do the video, and it also made them rediscover kind of pride in the project they worked on.
Water is Canary Wharf's biggest natural asset. It's woven through the whole estate.
When we were designing the master plan, we were thinking about
day-to-day life.
we like to valley.
And at the end, they're even kind of created in video where you see the spaces, and you see people using the spaces. At the end, it was not as lo-fi as we expected. So the contrast was not totally there, but still, I love how those videos really reconnect the place. We even extended that use of the videos to other pages of the website, about page, studio page.
With a
Worked
softer,
on it
kind of
on the
more intimate
on
human
mobile.
feel. So I think it's had challenges, which is something like.
And the identity really evolved together with the website. The codes of print were put on the website and the other way around. You can see a newspaper with kind of a little notification-like element, and it only becomes one. And if you remember the words from the strategy, we focus on people, ingenious ideas over showy aesthetic, energetic exchange of ideas. We want to be approachable, and we want to create places full of life. Well, and be humble. I think it feels like them.
Thriving experience. Our responsibility is more than just building.
It's a really collaborative process, and you're working and you're learning.
And like Birmingham, we are crafters, makers, and industrialists.
I've been testing, exploring, and at the same time understanding what the city or the location is saying about the site.
And that is a team that worked on that project. Third project, I hope you're not bored yet. We have 2 more to go. What if a website could reveal what the building remembers? Back to fashion for this one. This is a project we did for Galerie Dior. I don't know if you know that place, but Galerie Dior is an exhibition space in Paris. It's located at the historical address of the fashion house. And this is where Christian Dior founded the house 75 years ago. You can go there. It feels like a museum. You can see dresses, accessories, perfumes, and all that in a very beautiful and immersive scenography. When we started working on the project, the museum did not exist yet. It was in full renovation. And so they approached us to brief us to work on the full website of the gallery. It consisted in different parts. I won't show you in detail all of them today, but one section was the practical information. So that had to go from opening hours, agenda of exhibitions, etc. And so there mainly what we did is define the graphical language, working with the codes of Dior, but kind of taking them more to a digital level, I would say. So there we imagined different layers of content, a lot of small interaction to let you always dig deeper in different ways into their beautiful content. We also worked on a section called the stories, where we go even deeper in storytelling. So this is about letting you discover the world of Dior through different thematics that were very important to him, or some emblematic objects. And again, we imagine very rich storytelling pages. They could play with a lot of modules, from image galleries to video sliders. We also worked on a timeline that would show year by year the history of the house. But the section I'll focus on today is this one, 30 Avenue Montaigne. So 30 Avenue Montaigne is one of the most iconic addresses in the world of haute couture, because this is where Christian Dior founded the house 75 years ago. And the brief was again kind of double-sided. So the building was being renovated. So part of that the historical building were shifted into the museum. So some rooms were meant to kind of disappear. So for them, it was also a way to showcase the historic house, the different rooms, their function. It has kind of a role of memory, to keep the memory alive. But at the same time, we didn't want to only show the rooms and their function, but also kind of make you feel a little bit more of the building and the stories that it holds. So how could we do it in a way that didn't feel too passive or disconnected? Dior proposed us to work with illustrations to lead the online experience. They had a lot of beautiful illustrations made by a lot of different artists showing the building. We explored many styles of illustration, taking references and on, but we felt it never let you fully grasp the visualization of the building. And as I told you, while we were working on that project, they were actually working on the building itself and making the renovation. And they put that panel in front of the building. And I saw that and I thought it was so beautiful, like it looked like a 3D render in the city. And so that led us to leave the original idea of illustration and look further into 3D as a way to display that building, inspired by the building in the street. But 3D can be many things. How can we make it so it's not too cold and too distant, but at the same time playful and keep kind of the codes of the house? We like the idea of giving it texture, a little bit like the toiles, which are the first prototype that you do in architecture. We like the fact that it could be all white and this kind of paper texture. They really like the idea and they follow us all the way. But there we had to make it, and so we had a lot of conversation with them on which room are where, all that based on very old plans. Also, some rooms changed function over the years, so we had to decide, do we put the office of that date or the office of that date? I wasn't so much in those conversations, and I'm really glad I wasn't. How much detail do we take from the environment? For example, that little edge there was quite emblematic, so how far do we go? And at the end, this was the final render from the front, and this was the final render from the back. That comes the question of interaction and navigation pattern. How do we display the different rooms and spaces through their function or numbers? How do we go from one room to another? Do we create a slider? Do we make it happen on scroll? We knew that we wanted to avoid full freedom from the user to really zoom in, because I think you easily get lost. But we didn't only want to show the front and the back, but also make you go closer at certain moments. So we tried around. And one of the biggest questions that was still there is, how do you highlight one space from the outside of the building? Because if you see in that example, we put the little pin there, but it's not so clear what space is actually. We saw that reference of an actual paper house that we love, and light ID became the ID we had on the website. So it works on scroll. You can simply scroll. That's what we usually do, is really keep the native behavior and not put too much stress on the user. So you can simply scroll from one room to the other, open it if you want. But it's also important that you could just also select a room and go directly to that room if you want. Then we thought, should we show something of the inside of each room? Should we let user enter each room and see the inside? We wanted to avoid the game-like navigation that can feel sometimes weird and tricky. But we only have archive images to base ourselves on. And at that moment, the building looked like that. So there was really nothing we could use. So we decided not to do that, and to actually play with all the different interactive modules we had done for the rest of the website. So instead of trying to replicate the room, we worked with all their content, archive videos, archive images, and those interactive modules. They had beautiful content, so I think the only thing we could do was to give it space for it to live, and also a way for them to enrich the narrative through time if they want to. Then we needed to make it work on mobile and feel as natural and fluid as on desktop, which was something, but I think we did it. And this is a little bit of how it looks like. We also did a visitor guide for them that is not in there, but at the end of the project, the gallery finally opened and we got to go there. For most of it, this was the first time we were seeing the building that was finished. Paris, go visit it. It's pretty beautiful. And you can also see some of the original rooms. And at the end of the year, after that project, they sent us a wish card. And I thought it was really beautiful, full circle. From the real building that looks like 3D to the 3D building that looks like paper to the real paper building. And that's the team that worked on that project. The last one is one of the most recent one. It says, what if a website never performed the same way twice? This is a project we worked on for Ente Ghent, which is the City Theatre of Ghent. They produce original plays that often engage with societal and global themes. And they say themselves that they blend traditional stagecraft with innovative productions that aim to move and challenge audiences. What a nice client. They had quite an internal shift as well, because they had 3 new directors that wanted to push things even further. They had a bold vision and they were really ready for a new creative stage. And this image actually came from them. It's one of their reference for the new direction of the theater. They told us, they gave us that image as well. So together with them, we refined their commitment into one concept that would be radical imagination. And this I'll read to you. To our audience and self, we pledge to awaken imagination in its most primitive senses. Like a modern storyteller, we will supply just the input that is needed to trigger the mind and leave us wanting to fill in the story's missing parts. So it's all about basically showing you bits and pieces so you can imagine, but never give you the full ending story. So we worked on identity for them. We worked on their logo and the main concept of the identity that was really around the idea of art direction. Using the full human capacity to build up imagination from what you see. So it looked like that. Instead of showing final press images of the show, we gave you a little bit of information that could be anything, an object, some words. And we actually articulated those elements into different categories. Dialogue that would be written by the playwrights themselves. We also have text that was coming directly from the script. Could have PNG images, kind of a reference to internet culture, but also inspired by elements of the play. And if we needed to have other images, we would try to really frame them so they wouldn't say too much and they would focus on details. So it gives something like that. Again, the goal was just to place a few elements to let you figure out about the rest and never fixed your imagination into a final view. When presenting the upcoming season, it could give something like that, with just a few elements of each play. Or when focused on one play, it could show different elements around that play. Then we worked on the website. We knew again that the briefing was double. On the functional side, we had to provide an agenda of all the representation, contacts, all that. But also, we wanted to put that new vision of radical imagination at the center of the visitor experience. So we started from that concept of radical imagination, and we make it pretty radical. Can we go as far as creating an home page with no image? So we show the image description as your cursor. And as you click, maybe you have an image that refers to the play, and maybe this image is each time different. Like the idea that you have nothing but that. Too cryptic for them, and maybe it also put a lot of effort on the audience. So instead, we imagine an home page that could feel like a visual board of all things relating to the season. The objects are placed at a different space at each refresh, so you kind of never know how it's going to end up. And it sometimes created nice surprise. This was a digital director, so nice. The flame was put just on top of the guy, but they're actually two different elements. As for the concept of the layout, it was really simple. To keep it radical, we decided to separate what was more of the imagination and what was more of the practical. Very free, very visual. And when we speak of practical information, it's very practical. One font size, very greedy, a little bit dry. On mobile, we try to keep the playful spirit as well. And actually, we gave them a tool on the homepage to be able to change it according to the moment of the season. So at the beginning of the season, they want to show different plays, but sometimes they want to focus on one. Apart from the homepage, we also needed to work on the play page themselves. So what happens when you click on one of those images? Again, the idea is not to show what the show will show, but to show just enough for the visitors to start imagining. So this is what we propose to them.
Het huidige straffen is hysterisch. Stilte. Ik kan niet stilzitten, ik word zot hier. De tent is schade. Het huidige straffen is hysterisch.
So for each play, what we did is that we created a generated trailer on the go that gives you the feeling of the play without ever seeing it. So of course, we didn't ask the client to create videos. That was way too much work for them, and they have a really small team. What we did is that we generated those trailers in code. So for the identity part, they already had to create all those little components, those little elements of identity, from the PNG images to the dialogue to the script. So what we did is that we asked them on top of that to come up with audio and some videos. And that was creating the trailers. What I really like about it is that it kind of reflects also a way a play performed in the theater. At the end, it's always the same script and the same scenarios, but it feels different each time. So in this case, the elements that you see will never be shown at the same moment if you refresh, or the music will never come around at the same time, or it will never be placed at the same exact space. So it makes the trailer always different, but with the same ingredients. That's another prototype we did to show them the ID with different elements.
We dance, we discuss, we lay our lives down here. They can turn everything upside down, but not our smile.
The idea was also never to annoy the user that just wanted to see the date. So at any time you enter the play page, and if you just scroll, I mean, the sound goes off and you can have access to the direct information. Again, it's kind of juggling between practical information and feeling. And so we presented that to them. Those were prototypes, and it was the first time in my life I had to present in a screen that was 3 meters high, and we had no sound, which was really perfect. But still, they really liked the idea, and they went for it. But what you've seen there were just video prototypes that we made as proof of concept. Now we really had to make it work, and we weren't sure how to do that. So as for everything generative, you don't design the final output, as I told you, but you design the conditions. That's a little bit what my team tried to investigate into what we wanted the final result to be, and we started crafting conditions from there. We knew we had all those ingredients. We had the title, PNG, dialogue, script. We also had audio files, video, and we generated subtitles on the go from the dialogue play. And my conversation with the developers looked a little bit like that. Okay, what if we have a timeline for the visual, a timeline for the audio, but when we put an audio, we don't put an image at the same time, and trying to figure things around. As for the placement of the different elements, we created a grid and we gave them some rules. So for example, the PNG image can be either on that square, but never on that one. And yes, that was the first set of rules we came up with. We said that the length of the audio would dictate the length of the trailer and things like that. I won't get too technical. But we realized the client was not so happy, and we were not so happy either of the results. After those first set of rules, the trailers felt pretty boring. We had long moments with nothing on the screen, and I mean, we were okay that it looked a little bit weird, but it couldn't be too weird either. So we reworked the set of rules, redefined them, and eventually we reached a level that we like. We also know this is real work in progress for them as they will keep working on the content. We also actually give them feedback at that moment saying, okay, but if you want to make them better, you need to add more audio, you need to add more videos, because if you have only one sound for the full thing, it's normal that it doesn't feel nice. So they also worked on that and made them better. So we got happy with the results, but actually I think 1 week before the launch they told us, oh, by the way, we won't be able to do that for all the plays because we can only do it for an on production, but we also have a lot of invited plays and we cannot build those assets. So at the end, some plays look like that and others look like that, and it's okay. I had the old digital director at the studio always teach me that even if the end result is a little bit less than you expected, as long as you aim for very high, it will always end up a bit higher than what would have been if you didn't do that. They started the season and introduced it during a full night. They did so many nice assets. It was so nice to see the flame from the website on a printed application. And they worked on those visuals where it feels like you have a PNG on top of the paper, but it's a real object. And they again put the website on a very big screen for the second time. And we got great feedback, actually, and the ticket sales have been really good. But for us, it was also a chance to work with a client that is really daring to take bold decisions and to make things a little bit weird and different. So I think they define themselves really as a laboratory for public theater that are kind of pushing the boundaries. Project from identity to the end result. So I think the web response, when we design with intention, to me, a good project is really one where you push your own boundaries and you make deliberate choice. It's about really embracing the possibilities of the medium you're designing for and create surprise and delights in the little moments, but all that while answering the needs of the client, of the brand, and of the business. So sometimes it's easy to go and fall back to the familiar or to things that you've done and you know work, and sometimes you can also do that, but to me, if it becomes the only approach, well, you just simply get bored and you lose the spark. Working in digital can also be tricky to me because there's always new things to learn, always new technology to try. And honestly, I mean, I also have a personal life. It can be pretty exhausting and overwhelming. But at the end, I think that's why you really need to know what you're looking for. And designing with intent is at the end the best and the most powerful tool. I like to think that websites can love you back. If you give them love and care, they can also make you feel something in return. Now I'll show you a few questions, a few notes that I keep always in the corner of my head to kind of push me to think further. I hope also maybe that will trigger your imagination and you have new ideas. What if a website grew older as you spend time on it? Remember, it's not fixed in time. What if a website refused to load until it felt ready? Or what if it needed encouragement to load? What if a website was actually afraid of being clicked? Have we ever asked? Maybe it refused to be shared. What if it blushes if you click it too many times, too fast? What if a website only existed on rainy days? That actually could be really nice for a coat company. What if a website only existed in the dark and you need to turn the light off to be able to see it? What if a website could celebrate its own birthday? What would the online party look like? What if a website erased itself if it was ignored for too long? Maybe that would mean it's not helpful anymore. What if a website showed blurry until you put your glasses on? What if a website changed every time you blinked? What if it changes full personality depending on the city it's opened in? I mean, if you open it in New York, in LA, in Barcelona, it's a different spirit after all. What if a website was only accessible when at least 20 people are connected? I think that could be great to create some kind of collective action or maybe some kind of online project. What if a website could only be visited for a fixed amount of time shared by all visitors? What would you do? Would you close the tab and let other visitors enjoy it more? So I think the web is alive, only if we let it be. It's a living thing, still changing, and every day full of new possibilities. But at the end of the day, the website don't feel alive because of code or emotion. I think they feel alive because there are people behind them that care, that want to create meaning, intent, add feelings to them and details. And they care about the visitors to feel something, even just for a second, when they scroll, when they click, when they explore. And I think maybe that's also the point of all those what ifs. It's kind of to remind us, and also for me to remind myself, that what we show on a screen can also feel human. And probably to remind us to keep asking a lot of questions and maybe to make stronger decisions.
Thank you, Delphine. Fantastic. Who has questions for Delphine? Looking for the icebreaker.
Is it work? Oh, sorry. I would like to know if you are using AI tools in the creative process of your projects.
Yes, but not so much in design at the moment. I mean, at the studio, AI is at the core of every conversation, and I imagine here too. We are trying to figure out how we want to use it, actually. We have kind of an AI task force across the studios, and we experiment with it. We try things to also try and define how we want to use it, what we want to use it for, what we absolutely don't want to use it for. In digital design, I don't use it so much. I start to use it maybe for prototypings and things like that. I use it sometimes for ideation, for research on a client or a project, but it's mostly ChatGPT like we all do. We use it more for projects that involve packaging, for example, or where we have to submit mood boards to a client. I think it helps a lot when you want to present an idea and it needs to go fast, and it really helps clients project themselves into what it could be. And I think the developers, they use it every day when developing the websites. Yeah, that's a little bit what we're at now. But I think, yeah, there are places where that can really also destroy the process. In the project I've shown you today, there are so many moments where it's through the process that you find the idea or something that sparks the rest of the project. If I think like, I don't know, you're on a photo shoot, it's usually in that moment something that is unexpected that gives the final result, and that's something I really don't want to miss.
You.
Hello, thank you for the talk. I wanted to ask you, since there's so many people working on these specific projects, how is it that you divide yourselves amongst the conception and the direction and the actual making of it and everything?
It kind of depends on the project. I would say the usual path would be that project comes in, we work on strategy, and there it's kind of only the strategy team, but we already know which designers are going to work on the project, and we know if it involves more or less digital. If it involves digital, I would probably be on it, and the digital team as well. If it doesn't and it's only identity, sometimes I can be on it to give digital input or not. But usually it always starts with strategy team and creative director. And then it would go into identity. And we always have at least 2 designers usually working on a project. We always try to put people together. So we just come up with better ideas and it creates conversation and just make it richer. And then it would go to digital, and then I would be in conversation with the designers that worked on the identity, and we would push it further, and then it goes to development. That's really kind of the standard way of doing things, but you've seen that on the project of the architects, for example, we did everything at the same time. Sometimes because the timing is really short, or that we know that most of the brand is going to live on the web and not somewhere else. So it depends a little bit on the client.
My question was about actually the time. How much time do you have for for projects, and how much time do you dedicate to investigate and prototype, and then to do the projects, like the final proposal?
But the time really from the beginning of a project to the release of the website is very, very long. That's why digital projects, they don't come out every 2 months, because from initial ideas to full launch, there is also content production, which takes a lot of time. We see a lot of clients also struggle with that, with creating good content for the website, and we sometimes try to help them there as well. On the design part of thing, I would say, usually we have different presentation, 2 or 3 presentations just for one website, and in between presentation we have maybe 2 or 3 weeks, I would say. So it's not full-time 2 or 3 weeks on one project, because we also have other projects that are at different stage and that we need to handle, but usually that's what we try to do. So I would say in design we have maybe 1 or 2 months. But sometimes it's 5 days.
Hi, thank you for your talk. I was wondering, maybe it depends per project, but what type of platforms do you mainly work with? Are you also good at coding, or is it more UX, UI? I was curious about that.
No, I'm really bad at coding, but I do understand how it works, and I think that's important. When I did my first class in digital, I told you at the beginning, there I learned a little bit of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So I kind of know how the system works, and now I also know that nothing is impossible. So, but I think it's important that you have a view on how systematically it works, and that you're able to speak and talk with developers. For prototypes, sometimes we prototype directly in Figma, so most of the work we do in Figma. That applies to most of the work of the full studio, to be honest, because the collaborative aspect of it, I mean, it's unbeatable. Now we are also diving into other tools that are more powerful with AI, depending on what you need to do. But no, I don't code. We prototype sometimes directly in code if a developer is available at that stage of the project, or we prototype in video, simply.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
First of all, thank you for the talk. I think it was really interesting, and I feel like it was on the first project that you show, like a question came to my mind, but then you touched that point in all of the projects, and I feel like it's something that I'm really struggling at work, which is when clients have to upload content on the CMS and how that affects like what you expected the website to be, and then it doesn't turn out like that. And I feel like in a lot of projects you created like a solution after, but do you feel like now you design websites already thinking of a solution if the client doesn't upload content like you would imagine? Or do you just go with the flow and expect them to create content?
I think it goes both ways. The more we have experience, the more we know how it can be fucked up, kind of. So we try to plan the fact that images need to fit instead of being cropped and all kind of assets. We sometimes try to frame the length of text. We hate putting an amount of maximum character, but depending on the clients, we do it. And it's a lot of dialogue with the client. At the end, they also want a really beautiful results. So we try to plan all the conditions so it looks good, but sometimes we have surprises, and then it's just dialogue with them, and we have reviews of the staging with their final content before the website launches. And it's also a moment where they have feedback of things we didn't envision, for example, and we also have feedback for them, telling them, there, your text is really too long, it's not nice, and no one will want to read that. So it's feedbacks on the both sides. Now, if they don't want to change it, they don't. But I think most of our clients, they really just want a beautiful result, and they usually follow us.
Thank you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Adrian. Thank you so much for your talk today. I have a question more related to your agency experience. I noticed that you worked at Base for 10 years, which is quite a long time. I'm curious, what do you think contributed to your longevity and success at Base as a designer?
Sometimes I ask myself, 10 years at an agency, and actually it's my first work experience because the other work experience were internships. So I'm glad I did those. In Belgium, we don't have so many nice agencies. We do have some good ones, but I really love the clients we have, and I think also the energy in the studio and the culture of the company are really great and makes you want to stay forever, kind of. I feel after 10 years I'm still learning a lot, which is, I think, super important. Usually people leave when they stop learning or they get bored. And at Base, I feel like if you want to have more leadership, or how do you say, more taking people taking people and taking project into your hands more, you can just do it. You don't have to ask, and it's a little bit, you're kind of creating your own spot in the company time after time. I have a colleague that is a designer, but he's also starting to do strategy because he's interested into it, and the strategy person is really happy because she has less work to do, and so it's a little bit organic like that. And I think they're really good at letting people grow and keep learning. And as for my experience, I think I have a specific profile that is that I didn't learn digital at school. I learned it through the eye of branding, and that's probably how I think a little bit differently about it than a true digital designer. So yeah, I think that would be why I'm still there.
Yeah.
More questions? Sasha, you always have a question.
Okay. So my question was an unspoken one. Don't you struggle sometimes to be in the digital, where digital gets annoying and overstimulating, and you said that you are the digital designer, and sometimes don't you want to escape the digital?
Oh, every day. Yeah, no, really, it's a big question. But I think it's not only me as a digital designer, it's everyone here, right? We put things on our phone to be less on our phones, and we, after a meeting where we talk about AI for 1 hour, I just want to go and have a walk in the forest like everyone. But yeah, that's why I think, and I guess it's probably going to be more and more like that. I would like to create maybe less experiences, but better one, and some with more intent and with more interesting content, and have less of the copy-paste superficial things, I guess. So I think I have a role to play there to make it better. And with AI and all that, I think we'll have more and more of the good first level design. So what is good is that I think it will also push us to make things stronger and more radical and more full of meaning, and that's good.
Who else? 3, 2.
Good, now we can also just go and have a
1.
drink.
Thank you very much, Delphine.
Thank you.
Fantastic.